This video is going to show you how to use multiple stickies in Classpad.net to solve fraction equations. And that means just equations that have fractional values in them. A lot of students get concerned when they have fractions because they don't know how to work with them. And so we want to show you that with Classpad.net, you can actually use the fact that it does standard notation and has a fraction template. You can actually enter things as they are instead of having to convert to decimal first. So here's the equation we're being asked to solve. So we've got 1/2 times x subtract 5 equals a negative 5/8. So in the text sticky, the nice thing about the text sticky is you can do math type. So when I hit that button down there at the bottom right corner, I get the keyboard up, which means I now have my templates. And so they can show their work in actual standard form and show their work without having to convert between decimal and fraction. They can actually use the fraction equivalents. So if I were to do this with students, and maybe I want them showing all the steps, so we're learning how to do inverse operations in inverse numbers, I would use that option. So here's the problem, and I have a subtract 5, or really it's plus a negative 5. The inverse of that is to add a positive sign to both sides. So my work that I would show in my sticky is that I'm adding a positive 5 to both sides. And so this is what I need to calculate. And I'm just going to leave it in the form that I have it, fraction plus a whole number. And I'm going to pull up my calculate sticky. So that's this one here. And again, my template, my soft keyboard comes up, and here's my fraction template. So I can just use the calculator now. I've shown my work, what I'm doing, and now I'm going to use the calculator to help me calculate. So I'm going to do negative. And I can hit the fraction template and enter my negative 5/8. I'm using these arrow keys to kind of maneuver between numerator and denominator. Once I'm done entering the fraction, I do want to hit the right key to get out of the fraction before I enter my operation. So plus and then 5. And when I hit execute, I'm going to get the decimal equivalent, and I can toggle to the standard notation. So it gives me my answer in two forms, my fraction or my decimal. So let's leave it in fraction because we're working with fractions. So that's okay that we're in fraction form. So my next step then is I have 1/2 x is now equal to 35/8, and I want to isolate this 1/2 by doing the reciprocal. So multiplying by 1/2, and if I multiply both sides by the reciprocal, 2/1, I will get my x isolated. So that's this step right here. And so I can just now use my calculator to do that using the template. Now I am going to enter my 35. Another way to use the template is to enter the numerator first, hit the template key, and it automatically puts the next value in the denominator position. I'm going to hit the right arrow key and now enter my operation. And now I'm going to do the same thing, 2, template, 1. And hit execute. Again, it's giving me the decimal equivalent, but if I toggle, there is the standard notation. I could have done this without the calculator. I could have had 35 times 2 is 70, 70/8. And notice that the solution is always in its simplest fraction form, but I could now really kind of talk about what are the different forms. So here's that 70/8 if I didn't simplify, 35/4 if I did simplify the fraction. If I wanted to convert it to its mixed number operation, I could, or if I wanted to toggle and see the decimal equivalent, I see that as well. So this is solving it and using the calculator to do the calculations with the fractions using the fraction template. That's the beauty of this. Another way to solve this could be to pull up a graph and graph them. So let's do that. That's not a graph, sorry about that. Let's pull up a graph. And I'm gonna move it a little bit closer to my problem. The nice thing about Classpad is you have these nice stickies. And so here's my problem again. And so if I hit my function thing, I'm gonna enter each side of this as its own function. So basically I'm gonna graph each side as a separate function, and the solution would be where they intersect. So I'm going to hit y equals, and here's where the fraction template is going to come in handy again. I want 1/2, so 1/2, and before I hit that variable, I want to make sure I'm getting out of the fraction. So then x minus 5, so that's one of my equations, so it's going to graph that for me right there. And then I want to graph the second function, so I'm going to hit this function here and get a second function. And my second function is a constant, so it's that negative, and I want to, again, use my fraction template, so 5/8. And there is my two graphs, and the solution would be where they intersect. So I can click this, and it will give me the value of, where they intersect, and the intersection is where I have both colors showing up. Notice it's in standard form. It's in standard form. If you want to see the decimal form, you're going to go up to the settings of the graph and change your solutions to be the decimal form. And you'll notice that it's, again, the 8.75 is the x value that makes them have the same solution. So graphing is another option. You could also, notice when we graph our functions as separate functions, we also have tables. So if I hit display table and display table, it gives me -5 to 5, and I'm looking for the solution in the table. So what's it look like in the table? So right now we have different representations of the solution. We have it as a graph, we have it as a calculation, we now have it as a table. I don't see the solution. The solution in a table is where both values are the same. My inputs give me equal values, and I don't even see well, all of these are the same. This is not even close, so I don't have a high enough value here for x. So you can change your table settings. So I need to go a little bit higher, right?